Hey VC, TC here, and I'm here to start my first thread in the vinyl community, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. Uh, I think everybody's going to get a kick out of doing it. Everybody has large collections, and I'm not going to limit it. It can be vinyl, it can be CD, whatever. I want you to show 10 favorite awesome albums that nobody else has heard of, or most other people have never heard of. I have a lot of those in my collection. I've picked out 10 of them, and I think that these 10 are all, I'd probably be some of the first ones I play again when I get my turntable set up again, because I haven't heard them for so long. I don't have any of these. I have one of these on MP3 so I can listen to it, but the rest I haven't listened to in years. And most of these are albums and artists you've never heard of, or most people have never heard of. So let's get started. The first album is from 1979. It is Radio Dream by singer Roger Voudouris. This is Voudouris' second of 4 albums he made during his lifetime. We lost him very young in his 40s, in the late 90s, I believe. This album contains Voudouris' only radio hit, a top 40 hit from 1979 called Get Used to It. But the rest of the album is also fantastic, especially the title track, Radio Dream. I have all 4 of his albums, and one of these days I'm going to do a spotlight on him, because he's somebody that if you like Michael McDonald, if you like sort of like Barry Manilow, if you like Michael Johnson, you'll probably like Roger Voudouris. He was absolutely fantastic, and I love this album. From 1979, Radio Dream by Roger Voudouris. The second album on my list is another artist we lost way too young. He was only in his early 50s when he passed away in a house fire in the early 2000s. Greg Guidry and Over the Line. Again, this is from 1982. This features, or maybe 81, might be late 81. This features Greg's only top 40 hit, a song called Going Down, which was a big radio hit in the early part of 1982. Greg was also the writer of Climax Blues Band's top 10 hit, Gotta Have More Love. His version of that song is on this album. He was a terrific songwriter. He continued to do songwriting for a lot of other artists throughout the 80s and 90s. But this album, I was always disappointed that he never did another album after this for the label. He did release some independent stuff that's very hard to come by. I haven't been lucky enough to get it. I just love his voice, I love his music, I love his songs, and I think that if you, again, if you're into kind of folky rock, with a good beat, maybe again a good comparison would be Michael McDonald or Joseph Williams, his solo stuff, then you'd like this. Take a listen if you find it. Greg Guidry and Over the Line. A few weeks ago I posted a video where I had purchased an album that was a grail that I didn't even know existed, by Lisa Hartman. This I did know existed. I've had this since it came out in 1978. This is Lisa Hartman. Album is called Hold On, and has a lot of great covers on it. Most popularly, she never had a major hit throughout her 4 albums. She came close with If Love Could Go from Let Her Rock in the early 80s, because it was featured on Knots Landing, where she was playing a singer named C.G. Dunn at the time. But this album features some great covers, including Hold On, I'm Coming, Old Time Rock and Roll, You Keep Me Hanging On. She does a great job of Walk Away, which was released a year earlier by Sean Cassidy. Terrific, terrific album, and she's always been one of my favorites. It's worth finding if you can, and if you like pop female vocalists, Lisa's the way to go. From 1978, Lisa Hartman and Hold On. Another fantastic album that I would love to see more people hear or listen to. It was a fairly big album when it came out, but a lot of people don't realize that she actually started as a singer before she became an actress. Linda Carter and her only Wonder Woman era album, Portrait. This album, again, features her disco hit All Night Long, which was, I don't think it ever charted, but it was a great song. It also features covers of Billy Joel's She's Always a Woman. In her case, it was She's Only a Woman. She also does a couple of songs that she did on an episode of Wonder Woman. Toto, Don't It Feel Like Paradise, and I believe Tumble Down Love or Fantasy Man was also included in that movie, in that episode, which was called Amazon Hot Wax. She is terrific. She's done a string of standards CDs in the 2000s that are just fabulous. Linda's always been a great singer, and this was her first album from 1978, Portrait by Linda Carter. I want to take a moment here because I was going to look this up before I started, but I didn't. I've actually seen this next album listed on Discogs for a pretty high sum, and I want to see how much it is in mint shape, because it's if you're a disco fan, you might be familiar with it. If you're not, then you probably won't be. Although this is actually not the same one. The same songs are on it, but that's not the cover I have. This is, I guess that's an English, maybe that's an English release. This is Orlando Riva Sound. They go by ORS, and Body to Body. The album is actually called Body to Body Boogie. So this is, I think, is either an earlier pressing or a later pressing of the one that's on Discogs. This is a promo. You can see the, I don't know which side is it on, the demonstration not for sale there. I got it as a promo from South Soul in the summer of 1979. I love this album. Great dance music, a great adaptation of some Migorsky music by them, also instrumental, which my friend Eric Lyon, who does some of our music, did a great cover of a few years ago for me. Fantastic stuff. I'm at a loss as to understand if this is the same act. I mean, it is the same act, but I don't see this particular cover anywhere, and yet when I look in my collection, it's there. So I'll have to see where it is, but I want to check this out on Discogs before we're done. ORS, Orlando Riva Sound, and Body to Body Boogie from 1979. Mazzy might know this one. Some of Garage Pop's at its best, and it was based out of Berkeley, California. The Reuben back to the drawing board. This is the Reuben second album. Features their cover of I Think We're Alone Now and their classic I Want to Be Your Boyfriend, which was later covered in a great version by The Party in the late 80s. These guys never took off major league in the national scene. I Think We're Alone Now and I think I Want to Be Your Boyfriend both hit the Hot 100, but they didn't make the top 40. It's basic garage pop at its best. It's fun, it's poppy, the lyrics are great. I Want to Be Your Boyfriend, one of my all-time favorite goofy songs. Love this one, love the one by The Party also. And if you like, you know, kind of 70s garage pop, it's like the Knack but toned down. The Reuben might be the way to go, and this is my favorite of their albums as a foursome. They later split down to two and released a great EP called Party of Two in the early 80s. That was terrific. Back to the drawing board. In the late 70s, I was frequently purchasing what was known as Warner Brothers Lost Leaders series. These were 2 record sets offered about every 2 months from Warner Brothers for $2. And they were like samplers. You got some great songs on them to try out. It was through the sampler for, I believe, a la carte that came out in 1979 that I first discovered Rock Lobster by the B-52s, and I first discovered this awesome band that went nowhere, Vapor Trails. This is pop, New England, Journey, stuff like that comes to mind when you hear them. This album was produced by Larry Carlton. It is an absolutely fantastic pop album. It is perfect top 40 pop with some extra, a slight bit of extra metal thrown in. If you've never heard of them, True Love was the featured single from the album, and you might be able to find it online somewhere. I don't know. I actually haven't checked to see if Spotify has it, but it's terrific, and if you haven't heard it, you should. Vapor Trails, produced by Larry Carlton, 1979. Just to show I'm not entirely I'm not entirely into just pop and rock and jazz and all. I mean pop and rock and disco and stuff. I like a little bit of everything, and I do like some good poppy sounding instrumental jazz. And one of the best I've got of that is this album from brothers Dave and Don Grusin, Sticks and Stones. This was released in 1988 and is one of my favorite jazz keyboard albums. Amazing stuff on here. I first really got into Dave Grusin when his album Nightlines came out, which featured his cover or his single 45 single of the theme from St. Elsewhere. But I loved the album, ended up going back and buying a whole bunch of his stuff, and I did with this too. This is terrific. It's got a lot of synthesizer, a lot of piano, a lot of horn. It is fantastic if you've never heard it. You probably, jazz fans might really know Birds with Long Legs and Sticks and Stones off this album. It is really terrific instrumental keyboard if you're into that. Definitely check this out. From 1988, Sticks and Stones by Dave and Don Grusin. Excuse me. I mentioned on an earlier video that one of my favorite male vocalists was this young gentleman. At the age of 16, he produced one of the best albums of the teen pop era of the late 80s. And unfortunately, he never got the acclaim that New Kids on the Block got, or Debbie Gibson or Tiffany. He later did have a #1 hit from his third album, but this is the first album from Hawaii-based Glen Medeiros. As you can see, it got a lot of airplay, a lot of use by me. This album contains his pop top 40 hit, Nothing's Gonna Change My Love for You. It also features an incredible version of Lonely Won't Leave Me Alone, which is best known for Jermaine Jackson's version from earlier in the 80s, and a great third single called Watching Over You. And it also has Loneliest Heart, which was later a hit for Boys Club, I think. The duo with Eugene Wolfgram and Joe Pasquale later had a hit with it. Same song, great stuff. Glenn has semi-retired after his 80s and early 90s career. He does still perform. He also teaches school. He's back home in his native Hawaii. All of his albums are worth finding. They are terrific. This one is great. His second album, Not Me, was partially produced by Tom Keene of the Keene Brothers. Fantastic. Third album, I believe, I don't remember if the title was also Glen Medeiros or not. I only have it on CD, but featured his #1 hit with Bobby Brown, She Ain't Worth It. Glenn is worth looking out for. He is terrific. And finally, another artist and an album that you've probably never heard of. It was he produced a minor hit off of it in 1981, but unfortunately, he didn't take off the way he should have. Thompson and Take a Little Rhythm. The title track was a top 20 hit actually, in the summer of 1981. He also had a minor hit with Live Every Minute off this album. This is one of the most listable albums of the early 80s. It's singer-songwriter pop, great introspective lyrics and songs. The lyrics, in fact, are on the back cover of the album rather than on the inner sleeve. He was signed to older brother Dougie Thompson's label. Dougie is the one, I believe he's the drummer. He's one of the musicians in Supertramp. They signed him to A&M Records, and just a few months ago, Ali released his first album in over 20 years. It's available on Spotify. It is fantastic, and I cannot wait to get back into this one. And his second album, Deception is an Art, which is an even better collection that I love as well. I just didn't want to show it because the album is it's got some water damage. It looks terrible. But this, I love Ali Thompson. I love his voice, love his writing, love his music. if you've never heard of him, seek him out. So those are 10 of my favorite albums that you've probably never heard of, and I hope that you will seek them out and check them out. And I want to know what your 10 albums that nobody else has heard of are. So please, by all means, jump on this thread, hashtag, I don't know what we'll use as a hashtag, 10 albums that nobody's heard of, I don't know, whatever you'd like to do. And just, if you do a response to this or add to the thread, leave a link to it in my comments for this one so I can look at it. I'd love to see what everybody else has got. I'm sure they're going to be all over the road. I'll have more in the next day or two, and I'm going to update that. I don't know why I can't find that on Discogs, because it really irritated me, because I was like, this is going for quite a bit here. And when I looked at it the last time, I don't have very many albums that are actually worth something. Why did you do that, you silly thing? But I would like to, I gotta look that up. I'll have to add it to the notes. I'll look it up and add it to the video at the bottom or something, because I know it was actually coming in fairly high the last time I looked at it. Until next time, when I will stop rambling, I hope you'll check out my website, thekirkhamreport.com, with all kinds of goofy music stuff, and my wife's role-playing channel, Platinum Rose Roleplay. Just look up that title on YouTube. And until next time, I'll see you then. I'm TC. Bye-bye.